just came to say a couple of words. Reverend Minister Donald Morris asked me to come out and say a few things, and you know, you never really know what you should say when you come to these things. They don't really tell you. So I just want to talk a little bit about my involvement with the Brotherhood and why I think this is a valuable thing that we're doing this weekend. I've been involved with the Brotherhood off and on for a number of years, and in 2008 I attended a Brotherhood leadership breakfast, and during that breakfast, which was like many of the breakfasts I had attended before, something special happened. There was a young man there who stood amongst a bunch of us men, and as he stood there, he told us a story. And he told us a story about a man who he knew who had been killed, and that man was the anchor in his life. And as he stood there, something wonderful happened that I don't think many of us men expected to happen. The men in that room, who are, you know how we are as men, us black men, we're very strong and very proud, but the men in that room, they started to feel something, and they started to break down and cry with that young man. And it was a beautiful thing. And I was on my way to give a speech about black history. And that speech fell apart for me because of what that young man did in that room. And when I got to give that speech later in the day, the speech I gave wasn't the speech I had written, but it was a speech that came from my heart because of what that young man said. And in that speech, I think because that young man touched me and I was speaking from my heart, even as I began to speak, I began to cry. And my tears, as they ran down my eyes, worried me a little bit because, you know, we are proud and we don't like to do that publicly. But even in that moment, there was a positive thing that came to mind, and I think because I was speaking from the heart, it allowed me to recognize what was on my heart and say that to the people in the audience. And so I looked at them and I said, you know, it's a good thing that we have this guy, Barack Obama, and he's talking to us about hope. But I said, you know, for us, it's not hope. Hope is not audacious for black people, because black folk in America have always been hopeful. It is that we can do something more than hope. And I said to them, you know, what it is for us is belief. That beyond hope there is belief. Because hope allows us to hold on as we've always done, but belief gives us reason to act. And so that young man inspired me. And the inspiration that young man gave to me, I didn't know at the time, but it was the root, the birth of the campaign that I ran last year. And my campaign was about belief. And you know, as I stand here today thinking about what we're talking about doing, it is about believing. It's about believing that the men in our community can stand up and do the things that they're supposed to do. It's about believing that we can be better people than we have been. That's what we're talking about. And I want to say that as we're believing that, we need to be aware of some other things. And this is to my brothers. We need to be aware that the women have been in these communities for a long time, keeping them together. And we need to be aware as we step up to the plate that we have to be careful about what we do so we don't push them to the side. We have to be aware of that for a reason, because sometimes good intentions cloak bad things. Sometimes misogyny rushes in covered with the cloak of good intention. So brothers, as we step up today and tomorrow and hopefully for the rest of the time that we are on this earth, we have to keep in mind that to love a woman is to love her in the fullness of who she is. And that's to take into account that that woman is a beautiful woman, not just because she's a sexual object, but because she is also a full woman with a mind that we can appreciate. And so, what I really want to say to my brothers is, real men love. They love their women, they love their children, and that love spurs them to do something in their community, which is what we're talking about doing today. And so as I leave you, I just want to say to you that our community is important. And none of us choose the time or the circumstances into which we are born. But we can choose whether or not we stay where we are, or whether we step up and take on the mantle of manhood, whether we step up and love the people in our community, whether we step up and decide to fix our community. And that's what we're doing today, and it's a beautiful thing. So I leave you as I always leave you. I leave you with a statement that I've made over and over again, and it has resonance for me, and I hope it has resonance for you. And that is that history that is to be written tomorrow, to be read by our children, to serve as their God is written in our actions today, and a greater call to responsibility I have never known. So brothers, I appreciate what you're doing. Please continue to step up. Thank you.